All right, it is the last late night, Sunday evening, Monday morning PFF forecast, which means the playoffs are here. In the future, we'll still have a podcast for you Monday morning, but we won't have to record it when both of us look like we've been on a bender for the past 16 hours, which may or may not be true. And it also means that we now have games that are all great, despite your hatred for Buffalo.
You are like the funniest football snob of all time, and then you love the playoffs like so much. And I point out that yes, there are going to be some great games. However, I think we're a week away.
I'm juiced for wild card weekend.
See, CFI is going to be like.
It's going to be glorious.
No, it's not.
You know why it's going to be glorious? Because both teams want to do the same thing, which is they want to suck and be losing and then have some heroic, how did they end up with a chance to win the game? And that just means that there's going to be a lot of craziness in that game. But you know why I'm really happy?
What?
Despite the fact that we backed Freddie Kitchens, I am so pleased to see how they went out in just disgraceful fashion. I mean, they just got wrecked in Cincinnati, a couple of blocks away, and Freddie Kitchens was fired. The good news for Freddie Kitchens is that because he was fired after a game in Cincinnati, he can launch straight into his next career as a server at Skyline Chili, right down the street from the Bengals' home.
That is an honest job.
He finally gets the job he's always wanted.
It's an honest job. And I don't even know if people serve at Skyline Chili. I feel like it's like a normal fast cash place where you just get it at the beginning.
There's an actual commercial.
I've never eaten it there.
There's a commercial where someone talks about the joy
there's also
of
a
serving.
radio commercial where somebody talks about sending Skyline Chili to their deployed brother. And can you imagine being deployed and like getting a care package and being these like
freeze-dried Skyline Chili? No, I can't. I think I can't even tell you what I'd do to my brother if he sent me that. That's as much Kitchens talk as we have because it doesn't deserve any more time.
Right.
Who do you think should be coaching the Cleveland Browns next year? If they had their choice, who should they hire?
Well, they're going to go on tilt, I think, a little bit and hire probably Kevin Stefanski.
Okay.
The guy that the analytics wing of their
Paul
group.
DePodesta.
Paul DePodesta.
Who, by the way, hates Cleveland so much that he lives in Los Angeles.
Right. I mean,
good for him.
But
living the dream.
But like, I think that they're gonna because the rumors are out that saying that they're like going to switch like who they give they're going to let a guy to. They're
going to let a dude chilling at the beach in Malibu on their team.
People working from Cleveland haven't helped.
Right. I know. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. That tells you how desperate they are for success.
Yeah.
Look, you can live wherever you want. Just please fix our team. I think if they could hire anyone, they would probably hire Mike McCarthy. I think that's what ownership would want to do. They're not going to be able to because they're not going to get their pick of the litter. I could see them trying to get one of the college guys, but I also don't think Matt Rule will want to go there either.
Yeah, McCarthy.
Lincoln Riley, he's got a $4 million buyout.
Yeah, McCarthy is McCarthy's I think a good opportunity. I think Rule, his specialty is taking over crappy
Right.
So like you look at McCarthy. Would McCarthy want to coach a team that there's question marks about whether they have a good starting quarterback? There's almost no history of them being good since they became the Browns again. It's not a storied franchise anymore, et cetera, et cetera. Would he whereas Matt Rule took over Temple, and Temple was a group of 5 team that had like no reputation, turned them around. He took over Baylor. They went from 11 losses to 11 wins.
Right.
Like his specialty is sort of taking these things and making them. But at the same time, like I got a lot of respect for him because they were trying to give him the Jets job, and he said, "No, I want my way." And so like the question is like how much is the dysfunction in Cleveland going to steer somebody like that away? I think it steers McCarthy away a little bit too.
I think it steers McCarthy away for sure. Lincoln Riley is the interesting one because, of course, he coached Baker in college, and they have so many offensive weapons. He's got to be sitting there thinking, like, man, I could do so much with this team. But he's also got to be sitting there thinking, man, that's a lot of egos on this team. I really like the fact that at Oklahoma I get studs like CeeDee Lamb, and they actually play hard for me.
Briefly, Mayfield. I watched his game intently today, just because we like them this week and everything. And there are some throws there that make you realize why he was the number 1 overall pick. And then there are times when he's in the pocket where I wonder if he ever has a chance.
You know who it sounds like you're describing? Jameis Winston.
I was going to say even Russell Wilson in the pocket tonight was kind of that way too.
But Russell Wilson, there are far fewer times where you go, I can't believe he made that play, and the play is actually that dangerous of a play.
Well, but the thing is Jameis doesn't move in the Jameis's pocket awareness is weird to say better than Mayfield's. Mayfield glides into pressure. He creates his own pressure way more than Jameis does. Jameis just airmails open receivers for interceptions way more than anybody else does. And he makes bad decisions, but he sets his feet well. He does a pretty good job of getting himself unpressured at times. But it's just he's a egregiously turnover prone quarterback.
We said we were going to not talk about this for very long. You can cut that part out. Sunday Night Football was amazing.
We like Mayfield. We want to talk Mayfield.
Yeah, whatever. They suck. Teams that don't suck that are in the playoffs are the San Francisco 49ers, who now have the 1 seed and by an inch. And the Seattle Seahawks, who have been masquerading as a very good team, then dropped back down to earth as a really bad team over the past couple of weeks. In the first half of this game, were a really bad team, and then decided to pull it together enough to have a chance to win.
Right.
How did they have a chance to win? I just can't figure that out. The Niners never played poorly in that game.
There's a gravitational pull that pulls the Seahawks scores closer to their opponent's scores, regardless of the game state.
Are you saying that Russell Wilson's had big enough that he has a gravitational pull? That's Marshawn Lynch.
Wilson had 87 yards or something before the third quarter, at the end of the third quarter. I don't get it. I was commenting to you guys during the game that how is this game close? And they almost freaking won. Because how many times was San Francisco stopped? They were not. It
felt like the Niners were never stopped. Jimmy G averaged 11.5 yards per attempt from a clean pocket and was only pressured on 5 dropbacks.
Yeah, he averaged
Deebo Samuel was continually roasting every defender in sight. George Kittle could not be tackled, and Raheem Mostert was
they were
dancing into the end zone.
There were seasons when I watched the Vikings where I said to myself, the only time that they can get a stop on defense is when the other team chooses to stop themselves. That's the only, and tonight it seemed the same thing. The only time the San Francisco got stopped by Seattle was when they chose. They got a holding penalty, or they decided to throw the ball short on a long third down play, all that kind of stuff. When they decided to throw the ball past the sticks, it was completed for a first down every time. I don't know how Seattle was in this game.
It actually concerns me a little bit as someone that is kind of hoping that the Niners make it far. It concerns me that they dominated a game so thoroughly and barely won. They held Marshawn Lynch to 2.8 yards to carry, and they almost didn't win. I mean, come on. It also makes me feel really good that they went into a place like Seattle and won. No, don't give me that look.
Okay.
It doesn't matter to you that they went on the road to Seattle and dominated the game?
I'm perplexed as to why. We went into this game knowing that they were the best team in the NFC West. We did, right? They were the best team the first game. They're the best team now. And it was perplexing to me that it was that close. I get, they overcame it, and you should feel good about that. The fact they have the 1 seed, as Chris said on the broadcast, substantially raises their probability of getting the Super Bowl. But, Seattle's not a tough place to play anymore, right? They're basically 500 there the last 2.5 years.
But that's because they suck.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. The thing about it is the Niners were the better team tonight and almost didn't win. Substantially better team. I'm concerned. I'm a little bit concerned as to how that happened, and I'm hoping, if you're a Niners fan, you're hoping there's just noise, right?
They dominated the game thoroughly, and Seattle had to get a little lucky to come back,
and then
have
had to get lucky,
have a chance to win.
Yeah, and they had to get lucky to win eventually at the end. Like the non-pass interference play, and then of course Hollister deciding that he was going to fly. Well, frankly, the first fourth down with that little receiver guy instead just dove to the ground for the first down instead of like plunging over, for the actual touchdown. Like there were a ton of like dodge bullets, but again, this game did not change my opinion of the Niners. Like I went into the game thinking they were a lot better. Even though I thought 3.5 was too many points, we did not take the Seahawks because we did not feel that way, right? We did not think that, this was going to be too big for San Francisco, and it ended up being that way despite some, tough things at the end.
What I learned most about this game was the importance of George Kittle. So in the first time they played the Seahawks, they did not have George Kittle, and that offense didn't look so great. They had George Kittle, they had a healthy Emmanuel Sanders, and they had a healthy Deebo Samuel. And with those three guys, this offense is legitimately very good.
Yeah.
So that's the part that gives me.
Jimmy G only one pass attempt over 20 yards, but he was.
And you know who was two?
Deebo Samuel.
Kyle
Juszczyk. That's right. Deebo was what, 5 of 6 for 85 yards in the intermediate range. He's been lethal there. He was only pressured 5 times, and he completed all 3 of the passes he did throw when he was pressured. So,
I mean, Kittle and Samuel combined to be targeted 12 times, went 12 for 12 for like 190. These guys are incredible.
And Samuel
reminds me of George Kittle a little bit.
Yeah, Samuel was covered. Samuel got 49 receiving yards against safeties and linebackers. Kittle, I think, was even worse. So I mean,
even better.
Well, yeah, for the sake of the Seattle running their defense that way, even worse, right?
So we're going to talk about some fraudulent teams. I think the Seahawks are a little fraudulent. But let's start with the fraudulency that happened in New England, because I'm trying to remember, and you're a historian, so you can help me out with this. I'm trying to remember a time when Tom Brady played in a game that he had to win at home and was so thoroughly outplayed by a quarterback of Ryan Fitzpatrick's caliber. I can't.
The last time they didn't make the Super Bowl, they just did this exact same thing. So 2015, I believe they lost a game to the Dolphins in week.
At home? I thought that was on the road.
Yeah, I didn't have. Yeah, they lost at Miami 20-10. That cost them the 1 seed, and then eventually they had to go to Denver in the AFC title game and lost.
I want to say that Brady was under siege in that game.
Yeah, well, sure. The 2015 New England Patriots is a lot like this group in that, like, they're not healthy, they don't have a ton of talent. But no, I can't remember a time when they needed. I mean, frankly, this
was a huge game.
Yeah,
losing this game may have very well changed who wins the Super Bowl, because the Chiefs getting to have a week off and then play at home is so massive, and not having to play the Tennessee Titans, who are legitimately a scary team. Mm-hmm. Now New England has to play them. New England, we're going to talk about this game in depth. I think we both agree has a legit shot to lose. So this may very well.
The betting market, yeah, that's crazy how the betting market feels. But yeah, I agree with you.
You're not allowed to look ahead yet. Take it back. Rewind. And so them losing this game obviously hurts their Super Bowl chances. So they knew they had to win this game. Yeah. I mean, they're not idiots, I don't think. And so the Miami Dolphins winning this game legitimately changes, I think, a large number of ways that this.
There's a couple hypotheses I have. They don't think, this sounds stupid, but they don't. Winning the Super Bowl is not as important to them as it is to a team like San Francisco, Kansas City, New Orleans, and some of those other teams. Like
the Patriots or the Dolphins.
Well, what I mean is,
I think
so we have all these. We bring all these assumptions.
You can't say the Patriots winning a Super Bowl is not important to them.
We bring all these assumptions.
Tom Brady's like 90 playing.
We bring all these assumptions into the New England thing. Like, they win at home when they have to win, right? We bring that assumption into it. The bye is the most important thing to them, right? We bring that assumption in, et cetera, et cetera. And over the course of this last season, a lot of those things have been chipped away at, right?
Sure.
So, like, frankly, the Kansas City game was the last game they lost at home that they needed to have, right? And then this game as well.
Yeah, but they're playing the Miami Dolphins. The Kansas City Chiefs are a good team. The Miami Dolphins are not.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if you are a team for which for which I don't think that they're maximizing the probability of winning the Super Bowl. Their objective function is maximizing the probability of winning the Super Bowl every single week. So they're looking at this and saying, like, you know, if we're going to win the Super Bowl, it's probably going to have to be because somehow we run into some luck, right? I think that's how they see it. They probably have a very fair opinion of themselves.
If you don't think they went into this game feeling as though it was a playoff game, then I don't know what to say.
No, I'm not saying they didn't, but they did not throw the kitchen sink at this game. They did not do trick plays. They did not like.
No, you're right. Tom Brady just played like dog shit.
Exactly. I think all of the narrative.
It's very simple.
I think the narrative about them being such and such in must-win games at home is more just them being a very good team historically, and them losing today was less about them not taking the game seriously and more about them just being bad.
Right. That was my point.
Yeah, and
I think the dynasty is probably over.
But then when they were in a game with Kansas City and they were bad, what did they do? They tried to maximize win probability by rushing 11 guys in the punt, throwing a James White pass, doing basically a hook and ladder, right? Or a flea flicker. Like, they didn't do any of that stuff in this game. I think Bill Belichick basically just said, look, if my team can't line up and beat the Dolphins at home, like, we just suck.
Yes. Like, that was the narrative of this game. Tom Brady was not very good. He was only under pressure 5 times.
Yeah.
On 30 dropbacks. So the idea that he was under siege like he was in that last Miami game that you referenced is just not true. Had a couple of really bad plays where he put the ball up for grabs, was not efficient in the intermediate range of the field, went just 4 for 15 on throws 10 to 19 yards downfield, which is normally where, when he's good, he really does well. And
he's just not good. Like, just not good.
They're in trouble. I don't understand how you can't beat the Dolphins in a game that you have to win. I just don't get it.
And we ran into the bus that was Tennessee. I do think if Houston, as they said they were going to, prior to when we had our podcast, would have played their players, I think it would have been a different story. But Tennessee is no slouch. Tennessee is probably the 3rd best team in the AFC playoffs right now.
Wow, that is a bold call.
I mean, they have a top 3 quarterback in the AFC right now. Maybe Watson's probably 3rd, but he's playing the 3rd best. He's playing the 3rd best.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you put Tannehill over Watson.
I'm saying he's played.
Escape this room.
Over the last 10 weeks, who's played better? Tannehill or Watson?
Right. That's why you don't. That's why you take into account more than 10 weeks of data.
Okay. I'm just throwing that out.
You walked it back.
Yeah.
And you should have, because that was
but if you're
sinful.
Who would you rather play if you were a Kansas City Chiefs fan? Who would you rather see in round 2? Tennessee or Houston?
Tennessee, 100 million times out of 100. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
You would rather see Deshaun Watson than Ryan Tannehill? Stop.
I think so, yeah.
Stop it.
I think so. This is going to be a discussion then.
What?
I think
that's blasphemous.
Here's my thing about Houston. Houston, a certain percentage of the time you get brilliant performances out of Watson, and he's really tough to beat. Another percentage of the time you get who he was against Tampa Bay, where he has a hard time beating Jameis when Jameis throws 7 picks, right? Now, the thing with Tennessee is that, like, they do a really, really, really good job of putting Tannehill in position to succeed. And that's
they should have just gotten blown out by Houston the last time they played him at home.
I know, but they put Tannehill in a great position to succeed, and Houston does not put Watson in a position to succeed the majority of the time, and so you get half the time he plays great, and the other half of the time he doesn't.
We are in this together with Deshaun Watson, and you're just jumping ship.
I'm not. I'm just leveling expectations for Houston fans, the 4 of them.
The Buffalo game would be. I mean, Buffalo's not a joke as far as teams go, and I think that'll be
I mean, their defense still played really well today, even though no one was starting.
No one was playing.
Yeah,
and Will Fuller, if he's not 100%, that matters.
I agree.
So, if the Patriots are very fraudulent, are the Packers more fraudulent? Yes or no?
Yes, because they actually. So the Packers are more fraudulent because I think people think the Packers think more highly of the Packers than they do the New England Patriots.
Oh, they definitely do. I was watching the Fox pregame show.
It's egregious.
By the way, if you have to watch one pregame show, which one do you watch?
Well, I with Sam and Austin do theirs. I go on YouTube and I watch that one.
That doesn't count.
Okay.
Like an actual pregame show. There's ESPN, Fox, and CBS.
Wow, that's a good one. If I had to pick, CBS.
Okay. I watch Fox every time because Jay Glazer's good. And
you don't like James Brown's hairline?
CBS pregame show is kind of rough, to be perfectly honest with you. And Carissa Thompson does the first hour of Fox's, and she's great as well. But the entire Fox pregame show could not stop slobbering over how Green Bay was a team to be reckoned with and how Aaron Rodgers started to put it together. And now they've got Aaron Jones. In fact, they went through who are the most dynamic duos in the NFL, and Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones were one of them, which I thought was really fantastic. Their defense is putting it all together. And I was listening to this. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, there's just no way. Like, the Packers are one of the teams I am least scared of in the entirety of the NFC bracket. Right?
The only thing, and again, this is the same thing as with Seattle. The only thing that should scare you about Green Bay is the fact that they have all of the advantages with home field now.
Well, now they do, right? So it's going to be kind of, if they end up succeeding, it will be because they've gotten lucky, not because they are a good team. I mean, they almost lost to David Blau today.
They should have lost to David Blau. They got that team led the Detroit Lions this season for 0 minutes.
0 seconds.
0 seconds. and like, I don't know.
No, 0 seconds. They legitimately could not. They could not beat David Blau for a single second of this game. Aaron Rodgers throwing downfield is pretty tough to look at. So he completed, let's see, 3 of 17 throws, 20 plus yards downfield. It doesn't get much better if you look at 10 plus. He was 3-6 for 28.
He was on tilt the entire game. He just kept throwing the ball deep. And like Detroit somehow got an interception like right at 2 minutes and lost the game. A game that was tied.
That's because they have David Blau at quarterback.
No, I mean I think it's mostly because they have I think that the end of game stuff is pretty rough for them.
I mean, he averaged 5.5 yards from a clean pocket, which is a solid 2.5 yards below the league average. Yeah. He completed 50% of his throws from a clean pocket. I watched a decent amount of this game, and he was just missing throws left and right. And Devontae Adams made a couple of
That's why you think the playoffs are
plays.
So good. You watched Packers-Lions for a significant amount of that game.
Yes, I mean, the regular season is tough. There's 3 good games a week, and you have to sludge through red zone showing you meaningless touchdowns by Nick Chubb. So if you're ranking the most fraudulent teams in the NFL playoffs, I'm going to go Packers 1, Patriots 2, Seahawks 3.
Yeah, there's really nothing. And then Minnesota Vikings are 4.
Minnesota 4, sure.
Yeah, because Minnesota has.
But they're less fraudulent because they have squeaked. They're the 6th seed.
No one except for Vikings fans who were depressed about Kirk in 2018 thought that the Vikings were going to do anything this year. So the fact they finished 10-6 despite getting swept by the Bears and Packers. They think that they're this is an ascending team. When in reality, you look at that schedule and they've gotten roasted by any real quarterback they've faced, and have faced a lot of backups.
So you're in agreement with my fraudulent rankings?
I am. I think the issue is I think Seattle has been found out as fraudulent, right? Like over the past few weeks, people have started to catch on.
Yeah, but the fact that they battled back in this game.
Well, yes. I do think some people will think of that highly. I also think the Philadelphia Eagles are fraudulent, but I would put them in the middle of the pack because I don't think they're that highly thought of.
If you look at teams that we consider playoff teams, the NFC East does not exist in that group.
Yeah,
they are a disaster. I mean, they're so bad. We're doing our best not to talk about the Dallas Cowboys and their atrocity of a situation. I would assume I'm actually kind of surprised that Jason Garrett hasn't been let go.
Well, I think that they're going to let it string out a little. I think, honestly, there's probably some honor to the Freddie Kitchens, the Pat Shurmurs, the obviously the guys that already got fired. There's some honor.
So Jerry wants it to know that he views the coach he's going to fire more highly.
It was like in the
than your coach.
2004 playoffs where Mike Tice, they lost the second round, but at the 4 o'clock game on Sunday, and he said, we're the 5th best team in the NFL. It's sort of like that.
Sort of? So they're what, the 13th?
Yeah. Well, they were the 5th team left.
Who?
So they all three of the other teams lost that week.
Right. I get the math there. I'm talking about the Cowboys.
Oh, the Cowboys. I don't know. Like I said, I think that they've been around so long that I think Jerry thinks that he's doing Jason Garrett some honor to hold it on. Like, you don't want to get fired the same hour that Freddie Kitchens gets fired.
But I think he's also sitting there like, who would I get instead of him? Is he the best?
But you're the
Dallas
Cowboys. You don't have to wait. You don't have to like strike while the iron's hot. You say, "Come and get me." Like the biggest the biggest mistake the Dallas Cowboys have made is when they fired Wade Phillips to put in Garrett without a search, because they could get they could have gotten better, right? I mean,
you would think so based on how notable their franchise is.
Yes.
But here's the problem: Jerry Jones runs that team. So if you go in there, you're just administering to Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones says, I want this to happen, and your job is to make it happen. So maybe you don't want to do that. So maybe Jerry's sitting there going, look, Jason's been really good to me. When I whistle, he comes running.
They have to though.
Do they? Could you imagine? Wow. Another year of Jason Garrett. I think Jerry's sitting there with a very expensive glass of scotch trying to convince himself.
Same.
All right, you ready to get in the games?
Okay, let's do it.
I'm excited. All right, so the Saturday slate is the AFC, and it starts with Buffalo at Houston. The second we knew this game was happening, you knew it was going to be on ESPN with Tess and Boog, because Buffalo and Houston are the markets that no one is going to watch, and that's why it ends up on ESPN.
Can I talk to you briefly? Did you know that the Frank Reich playoff game was blacked out in Buffalo?
I didn't.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so Matthew Caller, that's where he grew up. He said that game was blacked out. They did not sell out a playoff game in Buffalo during their 4 Super Bowls and 4 seasons run. That game was not on local TV in Buffalo.
That's incredible, because blacked out also describes every single Buffalo Bills fan.
Yeah. They don't black out games anymore, but
no, they just light each other on fire. Buffalo at Houston. What did you think this would be?
Field goal, Houston. I think they're basically the same team, similar teams.
Interesting. So I had Houston as a 4.5 point favorite. And they are.
It's 3.5 or 3, depending upon the juice. Now here's an interesting thing. So the total on this game was well beneath 40.
Wow.
And now it is 41. So you're talking, it was like 38.5 a couple minutes ago. Now it's 41.
Yeah, 38.5 is ridiculous.
Yeah. Houston's defense, they played most of their players today, and they got steamed by Tennessee. I think that this 41, I think, is an over. What keeps you away from this over? It's just a Tennessee,
Nothing is keeping me away from over 41.
Houston just doesn't show up?
Nothing's keeping me away from over 41, and I'm still trying to find out why Houston, because 3 is basically home field. Now, I think really
Houston's
for
a little weaker, but yes.
I think for Houston, it's probably more like 2.5. So 3 is saying that Houston is the better team. But Deshaun Watson, and you've hated on Deshaun Watson just a few minutes ago, which honestly hurt me deep in my soul. Deshaun Watson is getting only 3 points against Josh Allen at home, with DeAndre Hopkins,
week off,
with Will Fuller, with Kenny Stills.
The Fuller thing, I'm a little concerned that Fuller doesn't play.
So that would be the one thing. This is what I wrote down. If it's less than 4 or less than 4.5, and Fuller is healthy, then I'm taking the Texans every single time, because they're just a better team, and they're playing at home. They actually have playoff experience.
Yep. Yeah.
If Fuller's not healthy,
their playoff experience sucks,
concerned.
but yes, they're and Buffalo's.
Yeah, because they always end up playing a Patriots team that's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the hard part was, so last season when they played this spot, they played at home against Indy. That game, the total was like 50. So it was a totally different line game. Game ends 21-7. It was a game where Watson didn't have Fuller. He looked out of sorts. And it was, again, it's kind of a similar situation in that you're talking about zone defenses, right? And the zone defense where I think Watson does a great deal of his hurting other defenses when he's allowed to escape. Players have their back turned. And also just how pinpoint he is in throwing back shoulder stuff. That's not as simple to do against a zone, especially a zone that is as well run as Buffalo's. So I agree with you that if I'm looking to shade aside, and Houston's -3, -115, so it looks like people have some appetite for Houston here. I do think that there are some things that the Bills do that are very good. And it might be tougher on Houston to mitigate those because they are weaker in some things that I think Buffalo is very good at.
Yeah.
Like Buffalo is a physical football team, and Houston is finesse as hell.
Sure. It's played on turf indoors. The Buffalo Bills offense, can they take advantage of Houston's defense? Because my answer would be no.
How much do they have to, though? This game's total is 41. You're looking at a game that's that they have to win basically 20-17, 23-20. Like they basically need one deep shot to John Brown, right? And they need
one deep shot to John Brown. They're going to win the game.
No, I mean I'm saying in terms of like for them to have it when they played the Patriots. Did you consider their offensive performance good for them?
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So like what was that like? Allen wasn't accurate.
No, but I don't expect him to be accurate here.
Yeah, but he made a really nice throw to Dawson Knox for almost a touchdown, and he threw a deep shot to John Brown, and then Cole Beasley did his little thing underneath, right? And I think that
But we just said that the Patriots are bad.
Not their defense. I mean, I guess their defense was bad today. I don't know.
Devontae Parker turns Stephon Gilmore into a very average.
So you're leaning Houston. If you had to bet it right now, you'd bet Houston.
I would.
Yes. Okay.
You would not.
No, I'm providing the resistance. If I had to pick, I don't think I'm going to touch this game because I just don't. Both teams are like enigmas to me. I want accuracy to matter in the NFL, so I'm partially like against an offense that succeeds despite its quarterback's inaccuracy. And I really like Deshaun Watson, but results have been shoddy at times with him, right? And so in the playoffs, I'm a little concerned laying the points here. If they're on the road as underdogs, next week, I kind of like them.
Yeah.
But in the favorite role, it's tough for me.
I have to be honest with you. I feel a little queasy about it. I don't feel great about Houston, but I'm rejecting my initial gut feeling.
Okay.
And going back to my Deshaun Watson love, which has persisted throughout the past couple of seasons, and I'm letting that be my guiding light.
Okay.
Anything else on this game that you want to talk about?
Well, I'll just say that, going into the week, and again, we don't adjust ELO for Week 17 games unless both teams have the same thing to play for. So San Francisco, Seattle would be the one this week. So these are fairly accurate. It's kind of what you think, right? If you look at some of the efficiency, you look at the change in quarterback, it's a Houston play. If you look at some of the other things, like the grading, how they grade roster, it's a Buffalo play. So it's pretty split. That's interesting, right? I mean, it's kind of exactly what we said. Yeah.
Can't believe you turned on Deshaun Watson.
I know, I'm sorry. I said quarterback. If it's all about the quarterback.
Can't believe it.
It's him.
Can't believe it. Well, when he proves me right, you don't get to take any credit.
Didn't we bet against each other last year in the playoffs, and you took? I think we split, but one I did win was I took Indy and you took Houston. Do you want a friendly wager here?
Sure.
Okay, I'll take Buffalo plus the 3.
Sure.
Okay.
You can wear your Josh Allen jersey.
If Houston covers that, I will buy and wear a Josh Allen jersey. How's that?
Great. You gonna make the cutoff?
No.
Damn.
It's not. We're not gonna do that.
A boy can dream. Tennessee, New England. This is very interesting. I have the New England Patriots as a 4.5 point favorite.
Yeah, going into the day, I said 4.
Wow.
And we were both right until we weren't, because it opened at 3.5, and now it's 5.5.
I know it's now 5.5. I read that it opened at 4.5. 3.5 surprises
Well,
me.
when we were at the sportsbook today, it was 3.5 when like literally the games were over
In Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Interesting. So this moved exactly how I thought it would move.
The total has also gone up by like 3 points.
Because when I was writing down reasons for why I think it's 4.5, I thought, okay, the Titans have an offense that is better than the Patriots offense right now.
Okay.
Ryan Tannehill is playing better at quarterback than Tom Brady is playing right now. And then I thought, okay, but it's the Titans and they're in the playoffs and they're going to New England. And it's Ryan freaking Tannehill. Okay? We got to remember that. Like, it's still Ryan Tannehill. I get that he's played well when no one has believed in him, but saying that you're only a 4.5 point underdog to New England means that people believe in you a little bit. And the Titans defense is a joke. So I started to kind of, I put 4.5. I wasn't going to waver on that, but I get exactly why it's now 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
It's Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah. I would say people are just blindly backing New England, eventually waiting for them to play like they did against the Chargers in the playoffs last year.
Which I don't think is a crazy thing, because it's the Titans. And the Titans and the Chargers are super similar.
Mm-hmm. The only issue I have is that when you watch Tennessee's offense, even like we were against Tennessee last week, we bet their under win total. Like, we're against Tennessee in a lot of ways because of there's certain things about their team that the numbers don't like. But when you watch their offense, they put Tannehill in the exact right spot where all Tannehill has to do is what he's good at. And I think like the hard part is New England's defense supposedly is good, although they got dragged up and down the field today by
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
You say Tennessee's defense is a joke. I don't think it matters.
They can't get pressure on anybody.
Yes, but I don't think it matters against...
Their cornerbacks are rejects from New England.
Yes, but like you saw that touchdown by Ty Sambrailo today when Matt Ryan threw it up the seam to... That's like how New England throws to every tight end. That's every New England tight end.
New England is going to have 3 trick plays in this game. Mohamed Sanu might take 10 dropbacks.
Okay. I agree. I agree that this number opened maybe a little low. If this gets to 6, I think it's a bye Tennessee situation.
I agree. But I think there is a big overreaction to Tennessee beating Houston's backups and New England losing to Ryan Fitzpatrick, which I totally agree makes them fraudulent.
Yeah, but how much different would this have been going? What was the look headline? I guess we don't know because the matchups weren't determined, and no one thought the New England was playing in this game.
Right.
But I don't think that perception of Tennessee changes that much after this game, because I think most people in their head are like, Houston A has a terrible defense and B aren't playing anybody today.
Here's a question that I had: What is Kansas City? What would you have made Kansas City at home against?
3.5.
Interesting. Because I didn't know. Obviously, we didn't know when we were guessing, and so I had both New England and Tennessee, and I had New England 4.5, and I had Kansas City 5.5. I just think Kansas City is fundamentally far better than New England.
Yes, but I think you pay a tax every time you bet on New England. So
the market?
Yes, I would say the
right. I get that. I'm saying what I would have made the line though.
Yeah, the last time the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tennessee Titans faced each other in the playoffs 2 years ago, Kansas City was 8.5 point favorites. It's crazy how much the perception of Tennessee has changed.
That was an incredible game, by the way.
I hate that. Stop. So maybe
Alex Smith.
Yeah, it was Alex Smith's last game as a Chief. So, okay, so in this game, where are you? At 5.5, you're just basically laying off. This is a dead number. can't New England's just enigmatic. The thing about New England is they're not even enigmatic anymore. They just are bad.
Yeah, at 5.5 is a layoff for me. I have a really hard time taking New England. I think if I had to bet
New England,
if I had to bet 5.5, I think I would take Tennessee.
How did they cover the 6.5 against Buffalo just 2 weeks ago? A random weird 2-point conversion play.
Well, Josh Allen is not as good of a quarterback as Ryan Tannehill
or Fitzpatrick.
Yeah,
I guess. Okay, all right. Well, it'll be interesting.
And here's the thing. Tennessee, A.J. Brown is a receiver that can make plays. Like they have offensive playmakers that can actually go out there and make some plays.
Yep. And
that is what Devontae Parker did today. That's why offense carries, right? If an offensive player is going to be capable of making plays, they are going to do that to you. It doesn't matter how sound your scheme is. Right? Because they're going to catch the ball in the flat or on a screen, right? And they're going to go make some plays. And that's what A.J. Brown has done all season.
Let's move on to the NFC. I think, look, these games are obviously better than the median or even the 75th percentile normal
You
game.
hate these games.
But I do not like these 2 games. Wow.
You're a hater.
I'm not a hater because...
You watch bowl games.
I do. I watch all kinds of football games.
You watch bowl games and you're hating on these?
I watch all kinds of football games. I'm just not, and it might be just because I don't look, I love the fact that the Chiefs have a 2 seed. And I was not expecting this game to happen. But Houston and New England are frustrating because they're just so random. And Tennessee and Buffalo are frustrating because they're a lot better than I thought they were going to be.
Okay. Sunday, Minnesota at New Orleans is the early game. It is on Fox.
Yeah.
And New Orleans has got to be pissed.
Well, they got screwed by a non-pass interference call again.
They have got to be really pissed because of all the teams that we are going to talk about, right? I mean, we're going to talk about 8 different teams. And there is no doubt about it that New Orleans is by far and away the best of all of these teams.
Yeah.
It's not even close. What did you have Minnesota at New Orleans?
I said 7.
Interesting. Okay, I had 6.
And it is somewhere between 7 and 8. So I've seen it at 7. It's at 8 on Bet Online.
I see 7.5.
It's 7.5 other places. I mean, basically, there's obviously, as they say, 2-way action on this. So, interesting.
7.5. If it's over a touchdown, I like the Vikings.
Yeah, my thing is that I don't. So here's where it's finally going to happen. Okay, the Vikings offense has been okay this year, actually, but in the last 9 games they've been a below average offense in terms of yards per play, EPA, all that kind of stuff. So they're season long. They've been a good offense. If their best hope is that Adam Thielen got healthy this week, the rest of their team got healthy. But throw that out. Their defense sucks. And New Orleans is going to exploit them. And I think this is finally the game where, okay, New Orleans is hanging 35 on you, Kirk. If you are going to win this football game, you have to win. You have to put up 38 points. And I just can't.
He's not going to win the game.
No, but
there's no chance he wins the game.
But here's the thing. Kirk's not going to lose this game by 3. It's going to be like... It's going to be
God, you hate Kirk Cousins.
It's going to be one of those things where Drew Brees puts his hand on top of Kirk's head and holds him against the ground while he kicks and screams for the whole 60 minutes.
Yeah,
because their defense is not going to stop New Orleans. This is a different animal than when these 2 teams faced 2 years ago.
Maybe, but I'm also not totally sure that the New Orleans Saints offense is that. Yeah, I know that they beat the Carolina Panthers. I get that.
I'm not. That's not
a flag football. Freddie Kitchens led flag football team might have had a chance
what
against
position
Will
does
Grier.
Freddie Kitchens play?
Center. So I'm not totally sold on Drew Brees and that offense scored a lot of points, but Drew Brees wasn't amazing today. They won that game because Carolina is terrible, and as bad as the Vikings defense is, If Thielen can come back and play in this game, then I think 7.5 is just too many.
Okay.
As much as the New Orleans Saints are clearly the better team in this
what we have seen New Orleans in the past struggle to cut. Like, so we were once on them against Carolina in the 2017 playoffs. They had a big lead. Other team comes back, all that kind of stuff.
Right. I mean, Philly last year.
Philly was the same thing.
What were they, 13 and a half?
No, they were 9, and then they got behind, and they kicked a field goal, maybe to like push it, I think, was it? I can't remember. I don't know, man. I think Breeze indoors against Vikings defense. Kendricks is hurt, right? He had to sit out today, but he's
coming back, though.
It's not one of those, like, I mean, he like legitimately hurt like a leg muscle where you're talking about time off. He's been their best defensive player. They get good pressure up on the edges, but the tackles for New Orleans are great. And then the outside, like Xavier Rhodes, I'm sorry, he's just not a starting caliber corner in the NFL anymore.
Yeah,
but he's going to be out there against some pretty good players. Antonio Brown, for example.
So it's 7.5. You're going New Orleans.
If I had to, I'd lay New Orleans. I would hopefully wait for it to get down to 7. But I lean New Orleans just because I think this is going to be a blowout.
The total's at 46.
And I see it. Yeah.
I very much like the over in this game.
Yeah, I can see that. The only thing that I would guard against that is the Kirk meltdown.
Yeah, but if Kirk has a meltdown, they're going to be down by 30 in the second half.
And what does he love to do by the
He's going to pad those stats. You know it.
Okay. That's weird, though. They have the lowest percentage of 3 or more wide receivers since 2006, the San Diego Chargers. I don't know. We haven't seen them in that role yet this year. As a get behind, like their games where they've gotten beaten like handily the whole time. Packers game, first game, under. Bears game was under. Packers last game under. So like they're not that team anymore. I don't think. It's weird. I don't know. I do like the over, but I think they're going to have to actually play well for this game to go over. The Vikings and the Saints.
Yeah. But look, Kirk Cousins is going to play terribly if he's a favorite, but he's a big underdog. He's got nothing to lose. Just going to go airmail it out. What's the Thielen's deal?
No, he's healthy, but he's just not gotten incorporated back into the offense.
Incorporated back in the offense. What are we baking a cake here? Incorporated
the
egg.
I'm just the messenger here. Don't shoot me.
Feels great. Is ready for the playoffs.
Well,
is being
then I don't know what we should do here then.
If Diggs and Thielen are easily a top 3 wide receiver duo
when healthy and when the offense is featuring them.
Right, when they're healthy.
Yeah.
Well, obviously they're featured when they're healthy.
Yeah. We're 3 months ago, right? Stephon Diggs literally didn't show up to practice because he was pissed off about not being featured in the offense. And since then, they
started throwing the ball.
They started throwing the ball to him, but Thielen has like 300 yards receiving this year. So it's like it is like last season they didn't have a problem incorporating the 2 guys in the offense. This year I think they actually do. And it's just a weird thing where they've been somewhat efficient because of Kirk throwing to one wide receiver out of play action. Both of them I don't think is that big of an enhancement right now.
Interesting. I think it is.
Okay. If we're betting the over, I hope so too.
I mean, their third wide receiver is.
Yeah, I think they've pivoted this year from featuring Thielen in a wide open offense where Diggs is the big play guy to featuring Diggs almost exclusively.
I mean, he's been hurt for so much of the season.
But you look at his statistics this season, you're talking about 3 catches, 43 yards, 5 catches, 75 yards, 3 catches, 55 yards, 2 catches, 6 yards. That was when he was healthy.
Right, but their offense was a joke during that time.
Right, I think that their offense just became a joke that threw the ball deep to Diggs off play action better. And then they played bad teams.
Your hatred for the Minnesota Vikings is a beautiful thing. It's one of my favorite things about you. The Seahawks are playing the Eagles in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Eagles, I believe, are going to be a 2-point favorite. 2-point underdog. Jesus.
Yeah, I said it would open the same as it did the last time where we bet the Eagles -1.
And it is Eagles +1?
Yeah, so this has gone through 0 a few times, but it's currently Eagles
+1.5.
+1.5. Total 46, which I think is high.
Yeah, well, the Eagles. So I was stunned by this. Carson Wentz is the first Eagles quarterback to throw for over 4,000 yards, which, how is that possible? How did Don McNabb never throw for 4,000 yards?
Well, in 2005, there were only...
Yeah, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, there were only like so many. And then they weren't like a wide open offense. If you were throwing for 4,000 yards back in the day, you were either a run and shoot quarterback like Warren Moon or Jeff George, or you were playing for like Mike Martz or somebody like that. And like McNabb played for Andy Reid, who like their best receiver was James Thrash some years. It's just weird. They were a tight end offense back with Reid.
I mean, Carson Wentz hasn't had a wide receiver for whom he has like an above league average pass rating when throwing to.
I know.
They just don't have anybody. And what's interesting about this is both these quarterbacks are pretty solid. Who has the worst supporting cast? It has to be Carson Wentz, right?
Yeah, I mean, because
he has a good line.
Yeah, but his line's banged up. Jason Peters didn't play today. No. Sorry, Lane Johnson didn't play today. Their running backs or whatever, it's like and then
they are underdogs now. So how do you feel? Are you?
I'd take the points of Philly here just because, again, Seattle is just like...
We're really going to see Philadelphia playing in the second round of the playoffs?
I don't know. Like, we're really going to see Seattle playing in the second round of the playoffs? I mean, I guess...
Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf.
Wilson averaged 5.8 yards per pass attempt tonight.
Yeah, he wasn't sensational.
He hasn't been like obviously MVP caliber for like 6 weeks.
I think Tyler Lockett might still be hurt.
Yes, but that just shows you how much better the support is for Seattle than it is for Philly, because Wentz has dealt with all of this already, right? Mm-hmm. Wentz has long since given the cheeseburger to Alshon Jeffrey and made him a left tackle, and he's long since he's lost Zach Ertz for the season basically, right? And like. Now he's throwing to AAF receivers.
Would it be disappointing for Seattle if they lose this game? Would this be a disappointing season?
No. I think Seattle is so weird because I think Seattle is very smart in some ways, and then they of course like are head scratching in many ways. Like I think the people within the Seattle building know that this is like a found money season. Mm-hmm. Like they're not going to be like, hey, we're gangbusters all over the place, right? So like I think they know, right? They know that they're not very good, I think.
Well, the weird thing about this is that Seattle they're just always having to make a comeback, some miraculous comeback. But this feels like a game where they could actually,
like they did the first time,
get out to a lead, right? And they should be able to win that game with
they've only really had a lead and lost it when they had a lead against Baltimore, and they threw the pick six to Marcus Peters.
Yep, kicked that awesome field goal. But you look at this season, I feel like if they go through it and say, okay, Chase McLaughlin missed a field goal against San Francisco the first time, Greg Zuerlein missed a field goal against them, against the Rams the first time. Minnesota crapped the bed like a few times against them in that game. They're not like, I don't know. They're not. I don't think that they view themselves as like being this like juggernaut Super Bowl contender. I would hope not, because they sure aren't. Okay, let's go through the 4 games and say which side
we
would go on. We'll keep track of this, and someone will do some,
heinous thing.
Yeah, like maybe we're a white snake cut off or something like that. All right, the Bills are 3-point underdogs. You would take the Bills.
Yes.
And I would take the Texans. And the total is 41. I think we'd both go over, although that's moved a lot.
Yeah, 41's a key number. I think 41.5 would actually be like a legitimate place for you to have to consider under.
The Titans, 5.5-point underdogs in New England. Man, total 43. Which side would you go on?
I'm taking Tennessee plus the points, and then I'm going. Let me look here. What's the total? 43. Mm-hmm. I'd still go over that. I think Tennessee's actually a pretty efficient offense. So.
Yep. I would do the same. 5.5, man. I can't believe it opened at 3.5.
Yeah, we're the PFF. I would imagine Green Line would be ambivalent to this at worst, and would like New England
at 3.5. For sure.
Yes, but 5.5. I still think like our numbers, because Tannehill's like different splits are not as like generous to him as like you just look at his Tennessee splits. So this might be a play where both of us disagree with the model.
I could see it.
Yeah,
I could definitely see it, and I wouldn't hate it. I'm on the fence with that one because Tennessee is just
they're the Titans. You just don't know.
Come on, Vikings. Wow, I see it now at 8.
Yep.
So at 8, I would take the stupid Vikings.
Okay, I'm going New Orleans. I'm laying the points, and
least surprising thing ever.
And I
could have been 18.
Yeah. Do I want? And I'll take over 46.5.
Yeah, I'd do the same
in a dome. Okay, so George is Minnesota +8 and over 46.5. Okay.
Seattle -1.5 in Philly. Total 46.
All right, I'm gonna take Philly +1.5. I'm gonna take under 46.
Yeah. I do think it'll be hard for Seattle to bounce back from that emotional game, but they're the better team, and I will take Seattle.
Wow, laying the points.
-1.5.
All those points. And you're going under or over?
I'll probably go under.
Okay.
A nice little low-scoring game. Alrighty, we're on the playoffs. I'm excited. You're not. You'll be excited next week when we have the divisional, and I will be perhaps
angry that Buffalo and
sans clothing because of the Niners'
Tennessee.
Impending domination.
We're gonna be like next week, like, welcome to the divisional playoff rounds. The Tennessee Titans traveling.
Can you imagine?
So Tennessee would go to Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that'd be a good.
That'd be a fun game.
Yeah. And then Buffalo would go to Kansas City. Okay, I
Those
can get on
games are
board
great.
there. All right, so then if things go the way I say, then New Orleans would go to Green Bay, which we wrote about in our column. That'd be awesome.
That'd be a great game.
Because I can't wait to take the points.
What do you think the spread would be there?
Pick them. Wow. Because New Orleans is 4 points better than Green Bay, but that's going to be like home field plus a bye.
Yeah.
And then Philly versus.
You know what's crazy? I think Green Bay would be favored in that game.
Oh, I can't wait.
I think so. I think they'd be favored in that game.
So then it'd be Philly plus Philly going to San Fran, which is just gonna be a disaster, a nightmare.
Yep.
It's like when Steve Walsh's
You
Chicago
better
Bears.
hope Seattle wins just so that it's not Philly going to San Francisco.
When Steve Walsh's Chicago Bears went to San Francisco and Steve Young, I think, beat them like 52-10 or something the last time the Niners won the Super Bowl.
That'd be beautiful. What do you think spread is in that game? So if it's Philly and San Francisco,
it's 9.5
at least. Yeah.
Well, and we don't even. The thing is there are less than or equal to the number of injuries San Francisco has going into now is going to go in. We have no idea how many other Philly players are going to get shot during that game.
What is the Seattle? Because Seattle certainly isn't a 9.5 point underdog. Maybe 7.5.
No, I mean if you look at the numbers though. So they were 3.5 going in this week. That would imply 6.5 on a neutral field. Add the 3, San Francisco maybe a little less, so it'd be 9.
But I don't think that's what it will actually end up being.
Okay,
because if they make it there, they will have beaten Philly. They had just lost to the
people are going to overreact. Let's put it this way.
I mean, we didn't think it should have been 3.5.
Yes. Let's put it this way. If San Francisco is laying 7, I'm going to lay the 7 with San Francisco. Against Seattle, the third time around.
All right. Well, that's it. We will see you guys on Thursday. Happy New Year, folks.
Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, push the button. The YouTube channel from PFF.